Hey everybody, welcome back to Electric Cafe. This album review video is on Talking Heads' 1978 album, More Songs About Buildings and Food. This is the band's second album, and then also their second appearance on the channel. I did give their Fear of Music a 63 out of 100. It's a good album. It's a good album. I think this one's better in a lot of ways. I do like the more straightforwardness of the songs here. A little bit more catchy. Maybe not as experimental as Fear of Music, but which I generally enjoy probably more if I had to choose. I think the combination of the two is what makes Remain in Light their probably strongest album, and I'll review that in the future. But I do really like more songs about buildings and food. Obviously, Brian Eno produced this, and also David Byrne as well, and the band, and then also Rhett Davis engineered it. So really strong album in a lot of ways. It does sound very 1978 for the time. I think maybe a little bit of opportunity is in the mastering process, but it does sound more like a garage band recording than really a studio album recording, for what it is. But I think in some ways that with the early Talking Heads material and them being so powerful live and being known for playing CBGBs and their performances live during this time, it makes sense to kind of not really replicate, but sort of harness that sound and maybe not be overly polished and sounding like a studio album that like maybe some of their later albums were in the middle '80s. One thing I really like about the sound here is well, there's quite a few things, but I like the more rhythmic, more cohesive, tighter songs here. Obviously, with Talking Heads, you get a lot of energy, a lot of creativity. Obviously, David Byrne, he is kind of the leader of the band. You can definitely tell, and he his lyrics and his singing and his performance it definitely sets the band out in a good way, in a more unique way. But the band is very strong behind them in a lot of ways as well. Um, a lot of times they're very surprisingly funky with like in the track I mean throughout the album, but just for example, like in Found a Job, track number 6 is really funky. There's also like a playfulness and sort of a rawness, less polished sound, like I was saying, that kind of lends it to give it some kind of charm in a kind of a alternative way, which is nice. But David Byrne just mass energy, very clever. He seems to sing what he feels like, even if they're not words. Sometimes, like if it's just like a, you know what I mean? Like he's just kind of just kind of does what he wants, and that kind of makes for a interesting song. And then also his lyrics are kind of very relatable, and they're very, I guess, more about like everyday life than really about like big picture type stuff or super deeper meaning or anything like that. Like in the track Big Country, which is one of my favorites on this album, it's just very relatable and talking about living in a big country and being your normal wouldn't say boring, but in a way he does kind of just talk about just living an average life. And is that something you want to do, or is that something that we do, or just in general that's how it is? It's just kind of very creative and very relatable, and it's very down to earth. And I think when you combine that with their cleverness, is I think that's the dichotomy that people really enjoy with more the lyric side and the singing side, and even the sound a little bit. They always kind of have that have to have that juxtaposition to be a well-rounded band, and at least have two sides of the band, if not have three sides. I think that's what makes The Cure one of my favorite band, because they can do happy, they can do gloomy, and they can do angry, or they have a lot of different emotions, and when I think of like Talking Heads, there's a lot of fun atmosphere, a lot of fun, but it's also very down to earth and relatable and just kind of like clever. So it goes well with their fun kind of uh, different kind of songwriting and their music. It's just they're kind of almost making the music like how they just feel. Like let's make a happy song. Let's go and just go for it and see what happens. And when you have like Tina Weymouth, like such a strong bass player, and then I think really Chris is really strong here as well on the drumming. But I think probably the most strongest part of this, a little bit more than even Tina on the bass is Jerry Harrison's his riff playing in this is just every song has really strong guitar riffs that are really catchy, like The Good Thing, With Our Love, Found a Job, Stay Hungry, like, and really just almost every track has, whether it's, I know I think David Byrne does some guitar playing on this too, but I think it's mostly Jerry Harrison, but just really clever guitar riffs that make the songs a little bit more tighter in a lot of ways on this album versus like Fear of Music. I do again really like the experimentalism in Fear of Music, but I feel like the songs here are just really consistent. I think maybe the only thing about this album when I think of the songs is it doesn't have like this doesn't have like the standout track like Psycho Killer or Once in a Lifetime or I mean like Take Me to a River is a really strong track, and that's kind of probably the most popular song here, but it's a cover song, so and it's a really strong cover song, really well done, but it's still a cover song, and it's not really, I wouldn't say it's more on the upbeat, and it's obviously not more on the upbeat, but it's not more of their sound. And I think that's what makes it kind of clever, is because their first probably big hit in popular music was Take Me to a River, and it was kind of not really their normal, which I find clever to do. Also, is just something you just wouldn't expect. And it's not that old of a track at the time. I think it's probably like Take Me to a River was. I'm trying to remember who sang it. Was it Tina Turner who sang it? It's just I don't know why I always think of Tina Turner. Is she the one that does it? But it's not a very old song, right? You're talking about maybe a 10-year-old song or late '60s at the time. So it's not a very old song for them to redo, but it works so well with his voice, and it's really nice when you get a little bit of change of pace with Talking Heads. Like most of this album is pretty straightforward and very of their music, but then when you get towards the end with Take Me to the River and even The Big Country, it's just like it sounds so refreshing because it's you kind of feel like they're a clever band, but then when you kind of hear a little bit different style of their music, it really helps their overall sound and you're like for the album. I almost wish that I think the album ends on a really strong note with those two tracks, but I almost wish there was like a track in the middle that kind of broke up the album, so it was sort of had like two sides, but it's so consistent. You can't really fault the album at all. In fact, I don't have any really anything constructive to say about the album at all. It's just it is what it is. It's a strong, really strong Talking Heads album, and the songs are so consistent too. Like my ratings on the album, there's nothing lower than 2.5, and there's nothing over 4. It's just solid, consistent. Doesn't necessarily have the super high notes in my opinion, but it doesn't have any below average, even below good songs in my opinion. Track number 1, Thank You for Sending Me an Angel, probably my least liked. It's 2.5 stars. With Our Love, 3 stars. Then the next 3 tracks, The Good Thing, Warning Sign, The Girls Want to Be with Girls, are all really strong tracks. I gave those all 3.25 stars. I like Found a Job even better at 3.5 stars. Artists Only, 3 stars. I'm Not in Love, 2.75 stars. Still staying really consistent. Stay Hungry, 3 stars. And then Take Me to River and The Big Country, Probably my favorite two songs. I think, because Big Country is probably my favorite song on the album. There's definitely a lot of close ones with The Good Thing, Warning Sign, The Girls Want to Be with Girls, and even and then Found a Job as well. They're all really strong in there. But when you take into account the difference of like Take Me to River and just how unique it is and how strong it is, you have to put it a little bit higher, I feel like. And then The Big Country is kind of like my personal favorite. And I really like the last like minute or so. Like you can tell like Brian Eno's involved a little bit more in this track. Anything deeper, Brian Eno's going to probably put a little bit of his keyboard sound and some of his production technique. And I really feel like the last like minute and a half kind of takes the song to like another level where I feel like it's already a really strong song and it's already different and it's got a lot of charm to it. But then he even takes it a little higher. And I feel like I was like, oh, okay, this is around 3 stars. And I was like, it's been a while since I heard this. Yeah, this is a good one. I remember this one. It's like 3.5. Like, okay, it's. And then it just closes out like really strong with a little bit more harmony and melody in this track than a lot of the other songs. A lot of the other songs are really tight, but I feel like Take Me to River and Big Country just kind of, there just seem to be almost like transcendent songs for different reasons compared with the other songs that are a little bit more straightforward rock music. But wow, what a strong album! It's just really close to being as good as Remain a Light. It just doesn't have that like one or two like above 4 star tracks for me. I got the scoring is a 35 stars divided by 11, so it's a 3.20. So I got right in the middle of seven, in between very good, solidly in place at a 75 out of 100. It's such a strong album, and there's really no weak songs in here at all, and it's just on the up and up, and really a fun album to listen to with that becomes more catchy as you listen to it, and even though the songs are fairly concise and except for last tracks, pretty much around 3 to 4.5 minutes. As you start to listen to it more, they kind of separate themselves in a way where it's not just bang 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 bang, but it's you're kind of getting into a little bit more depth. Um, but wow, it's such a strong album. So it's all. When I was going into rating my Talking Heads albums, and I also go through. I also have a couple of Tom Tom Club albums too, which I'll review as well. I think I have their '88 album, which had Sub Oceana on it, and then of course the one that has Genius of Love and Wordy Rapping Hood, and blanking on the name of that album. Is it just Wordy Rapping Hood, or is it? I'm trying to remember the name of that album. But I have those two albums, so I'll definitely review those as well. But when I was going into the Talking Heads album, I thought that Remain Alive would be my favorite. And I thought that this would be second and Fear the Music third and probably 77 fourth. And it looks like it's kind of turning out that way because I know I like Remain Alive the best of their albums. And I got Stop Making Sense up there. And unfortunately, that's the greatest sort of a compilation, so I can't really rate that. But so obviously that one's a really strong compilation that sort of brought in some of their best material on the popular side, and then also tied it with their strong live performances, and of course made an iconic concert with it, and just kind of helped take them to the next level. But actually forgot their '82 album also. '82 album is probably going to be either second or third, probably just behind this. But I do really like My Girlfriend's Better, and there's some other tracks on there as well. I really like that. So that actually will be close to this one as well. So, yeah, probably of the first five Talking Heads albums, this will probably be either second or third in my rankings. But yeah, really strong album. I'm curious to hear like what's your favorite 3 tracks on here, and what's your thoughts on this album in general. All right, thanks so much for watching.